Yeah, hello, Christopher.
Hello.
Yeah, so today we have you here, and thank you very much for joining our video podcast. It's a great pleasure having you today. So a little bit of introduction. We're today talking with Christopher Savoie, and he's a lifelong entrepreneur and scientist who founded a number of companies and has been on the executive positions for many organizations. And he's the founder and COO of Zapata Computing, an American quantum software company, which is basically dominating the market of quantum computing right now, as far as I know. Yes, so today I'd like to ask you, Christopher, a number of questions and basically lead some light on this emerging area of quantum computing, quantum software, and everything quantum, because the area is complex and we need some more understanding, I guess, educational, kind of stuff to so that pharmaceutical industry leaders and other industry leaders can basically make their decisions about this exciting area. So I'd like to first start with a very general question, and basically we hear a lot of news from top companies like Google, for example, about this quantum thing, and a lot of theoretical work has been done here. And now it seems like the industry is finally getting to some practical, valuable applications. Can you explain where we are right now with this technology?
Yeah, we're in the early days of this technology, and the hardware itself is still being developed as we speak. There are many types of ways to make these qubits. So the theory that a qubit can work has already been proven in experimentally. So we know that qubits work. We have them. We have these computers. They can do relatively simple calculations right now. So the theory behind it is not even a question. There is a question about which of the different ways of making a qubit work are going to be the most effective and the most scalable solution. So Google and IBM have this superconducting type of qubit, and that has its advantages, including speed of the gate operations that it does. Then there are other types of these computers that have nothing to do with superconducting. They're actually done with ions, ion traps, and there are neutral atom ways of creating qubit and photonic ways of creating a qubit. So all of these competing platforms are all trying to create a hardware device that will perform this theory of superposition and entanglement and all of these things to do these wonderful calculations. They all, at the end of the day, when they become fault tolerant, meaning that they're robust enough to continue in their operations and do calculations perfectly, they're all doing the same calculation. They're all doing the same thing, but they do them in very different ways. So there's a lot of development in each one of these areas. So it's very nuanced and very hard to know from a user's perspective or from a pharmaceutical company, or for that matter, any other company's perspective, which one of these platforms is going to be ideal for any given problem or solution. So we're in the early days of discovery, I think, of which of these solutions is going to be better. And I'm of the opinion that it's not a zero-sum game. Like, it's not going to be just one of these solutions that wins everything. I think that all of these various platforms will be good for certain things, certain applications. Some are better at different operations in the computational space. So, for example, an ion trap is right now of a higher fidelity. The qubits have less error built in them than the superconducting qubits that IBM or Google might have. So companies like IonQ and Honeywell have these machines, but their gate speeds, the speed of operation, is much slower. So there's kind of a trade-off here, and depending on your algorithm, do you want to have lots and lots of samples really quickly? Well, if that's the case, then the superconducting ones are going. Maybe you can tolerate a little more error. If you have something that needs that fidelity very much, maybe the ion traps are a better solution. So as you can see, depending on the needs, depending on the use case, the ideal hardware vendor may change actually. So we're in those very early days. Some of us believe that we're quickly approaching a regime in which, and Google had this very famous experiment, this supremacy paper back in 2019, the end of 2019, where they said they accomplished something that would be difficult to do on a classical computer, even a supercomputer. They compared it to the Oak Ridge computer there, that would be so difficult that a supercomputer would take days or years. We can argue about what the time is, but basically it made it impractical to do it on even a supercomputer, this calculation. It wasn't, though, a very particularly useful example that they did. It's not like the problem that they solved could be actually directly applicable to chemistry or biology or anything that we might care about, or even drug delivery or anything close to that. But it showed that at 53 qubits, pretty empirically in an experiment, that you could do something that a classical computer would have a difficult time doing. So we're getting to that regime where we can see that there will be some applications and use cases where a quantum computer empirically and experimentally, not just theoretically, is going to be superior to classical computers. And we have shown in recent results that we have on the archive that we can get enhancements to machine learning using a quantum computer. Even a relatively small quantum computer can give us some advantage in the way that we do neural networks and things like GANs that we can talk about. But that points to perhaps a quite near-term possibility that things that we care about, like neural networks and machine learning, may be enhanced by quantum computers. And so really we're at that precipice where this is starting to get very real.
Oh, I see. That sounds really exciting. And so Zapata Computing is in this early early industry, basically. And as far as I understand, your company is very ambitious to become a leader here. And how do you do it? What's the actual solution that the company is bringing, and what kind of industries you're targeting? Like what's the use cases, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So my partner in crime, my co-founder, Alanis Bergusic, actually it was in his lab that the VQE, variational quantum eigensolver, this very important first chemistry algorithm that can be run on these noisy near-term quantum computers. It was invented in his lab. Because of this, we have our group from the very beginning has had some very much experience in actually running these algorithms, not just coming up with the algorithms, but running them on various platforms like ion traps and the superconducting ones. VQE has been run on all of these platforms because it's maybe the first and most famous algorithm in this area. And actually, all of the algorithms that have actually run on noisy intermediate scale quantum devices, NISQ devices as we call them, are in some ways the progeny of this algorithm. So because of this, we have been able to, because of who we are and how early we were in the development of these algorithms as a group, we are able to attract 20 plus of the best, brightest PhD level researchers in algorithms to work at our company as researchers. And so we have on one side of the company some of the best people at looking at a problem and figuring out sometimes a novel algorithm to solve it. Sometimes there is not yet an algorithm that works on a NISQ computer to do these jobs. And we have the people who can look at the mathematics of something and come up with a novel way of actually solving that algorithmically on a near-term quantum computer, or even for a fault-tolerant quantum computer that may be developed in the near future. So that's one side of the company. On the other side of the company, we have a bunch of people who have enterprise software experience, like looking at how do I actually deliver an algorithm in a machine learning context at scale on real data, for example. Here's 10 to the 7th small molecules that I want to screen. Okay, how would I actually do that? Where's that data sitting? How do I arrange that data? How do I get everything to work in a workflow in an actual enterprise system, which is not an easy thing, right? You can come up with the algorithm and have the most beautiful algorithm in the world. And we've seen this in AI, right? But if you actually want to apply that to drug discovery, that's a harder thing to do, to put that in production, right? So we have these kind of two sides to the company. We have the capability of looking at a problem and coming up with the algorithm. And the other side of the company is our ability to actually engineer the software that would actually deliver that. And the important thing to understand here is that you never do just quantum computing in isolation. That will never happen. That's like saying, okay, we're going to do a GPU only architecture, or a lot of what we have to do is still classical. Getting the data, preparing the data, understanding what we have to run, understanding the problem, pre-processing things, sending it to the quantum computer that maybe lives on the cloud right now, bringing that result back, post-processing that result. Most of the work is classical, and it's dirty, not so fun, boring software engineering, but you have to do it to make this actually practical. So really, that's really the combination of what Zapata is. We have some of the brightest minds in algorithmic theory for quantum computing, combined with the ability to actually software engineer that into a system that will actually work in a real company to deliver a real solution. Because at the end of the day, if you talk to the C-suite at biopharma companies, they just want the answer. They really don't care if it's a quantum computer or something else that's giving them the answer. It may be a pocket calculator. They want the answer, right? They want to know, which hit is going to become a lead, that's going to become the right drug, that's going to then which patients should be in the clinical trial, which should be enrolled, what exclusion criteria, all of these kind of things. And then, okay, how do I distribute my drug? That's also a big computational problem. So those things, giving those answers to people is what's really important. So this is really what we do. We look at a problem and we will tell a customer, nope, doesn't look quantum. I don't think quantum's your solution. You should just use a classical neural network for this. And here's an example of how we can do it. So our job really is to compare and contrast the various solutions and then deliver the right solution to customers in a enterprise capable at scale software engineering solution. Not just here's an algorithm, let's go see if we can run it somewhere.
Right. So yeah, so this brings me to the next question, which is, so you mentioned drug discovery, and indeed, in drug discovery area, everybody wants to know the answer, and the algorithm is kind of just a tool to basically get that answer. But speaking about quantum computing, in particular, what Zapata is doing, what are the more suitable use cases, so to speak, some preferences, maybe hit discovery or biology computation, or maybe clinical trial optimization or something like that? Do you have idea of preferences for the use cases where quantum would be more important, more value adding than, let's say, in other cases?
Well, I'd say that all of those cases, right, that I've been involved in when I ran a pharmaceutical discovery company, all of those cases we ran into some kind of mathematical problem. You can't run all the variables and all the data and everything. Quantum will get us to a point where it's possible to run significantly all of the variables together and find the optimal solution. So I think in all of those things, from ab initio chemistry all the way through clinical development and even supply chain and demand chain. Like, how do you get these vaccines like we've seen during COVID? How do we get those distributed? Is a big problem, and it's not optimal right now. So there are a lot of places along the entire value chain in biopharma that will eventually benefit. The key is when, right? When some of these will have more near-term uses, because we can use these noisy intermediate scale devices to solve those problems. And some will require fault tolerance, a basically perfect quantum computer, which may be a lot farther away. in achieving that as a hardware milestone. So it's very nuanced. It's the dream is that we will do some very, very complex things with quantum computers, that we'll be able to you do the ab initio chemistry and look at the intermediate states, for example, these highly correlated states that we call them in chemical reactions. So when you take a small molecule and you bind it to a protein, a GPCR or something like that, okay, which one is going to be the best binder? We would love to be able to predict that, and actually even predict the cascade that happens, the biochemical cascade that happens in a systems biology way perfectly, if we could, before we go to the lab and do a lot of expensive experiments. Before we do combinatorial chemistry at a large scale, let's know what's actually going to work. So, that would be the ideal situation. Unfortunately, to do that accurately is going to take a very powerful quantum computer. And we've had some research papers out recently that show that we're going to need, thousands, millions, 10 million qubits that we don't have yet, that are very, very high fidelity, meaning they don't make errors very often. And that's not where we are today. So for those people, it doesn't mean we shouldn't start doing the research and pushing that field forward, because the payoff is huge if we can get to that point. But the requirements to do that very accurately are high. So things like doing protein folding, which is a problem that everyone's interested in. If we can just look at a sequence and know what the tertiary structure will be in fluid moving around and all the dynamics and everything, wouldn't that be great? If we could just look at a sequence and know that, great. But that's going to take a long time to develop the hardware that's capable of doing that. Having said that, there are some problems that will be nearer term and highly valuable. I believe that the use of GANs, these generative adversarial networks, can be used to do things like create novel deepfaking is the way we hear about it in the popular press. So you can deepfake a face and make it look really real. You can deepfake something else, but you can more practically for biopharma, you can deepfake a molecule. You can create a new molecule that nobody else has thought of that has certain properties. So you look at a distribution of chemicals that fit a certain requirement functionally, and you learn the probability distribution of those chemicals, how they look. And now you can, based on that distribution, create very realistic new molecules that actually can be synthesized that may fulfill the same functional requirements. So these kinds of things we've shown, if you use a combination of classical neural networks and some bits of quantum, we can start to use these nearer term devices a lot quicker to do something that's quite useful in that space. So that is an area that I'm excited about, the chemoinformatics side of discovery. I think that'll be nearer term as far as the use of this than even the ab initio chemistry. Having said that, once we get the ab initio chemistry, that's the holy grail in some ways. So we shouldn't give up on doing the research there, but that's more research than development. And I'd say in the other places of the value chain, already AI and machine learning are being used in clinical trial work to try and do patient selection, identification of biomarkers, all of these kind of things. And quantum can provide some, we think, nearer term enhancements there, using the same kinds of things that we do in the chemoinformatics. And then on the supply chain demand side of the commercial side of biopharma, supply chain optimization, demand chain optimization. We've seen this in COVID. It's not perfect. It doesn't work. It's usually done on an Excel spreadsheet with some pretty simple business rules, because it's very hard. This is like this traveling salesman problem. There's actually a mathematical reason why we can't really optimize that distribution. And it's a problem. We've seen it very firsthand, unfortunately, over the past months. So that's a very real thing, and that can have a near-term possibility that quantum computers can help there, and that's important for patients and customers of biopharma. We think it's not as exciting as doing the drug discovery and the ab initio chemistry and all of that, but it can really move the needle for companies, because at the end of the day, you need to get these drugs to patients.
Actually, I have it occurs to me. So artificial intelligence, like machine learning stuff, is very is very growing trend in the pharmaceutical industry right now. And you just mentioned a lot of correlation between this quantum technology and neural nets, let's say. So as far as I understand, quantum technology is going to be one of the enabling technologies for also growing this artificial intelligence stuff. Is it kind of correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think that that's really the nearest term place where we're going to see some, because we're, as you said, we're already really investing as an industry in AI and machine learning and data science overall, to have more data-driven decisions throughout the entire process of drug discovery and clinical discovery, clinical trials management, the whole thing. So I think that this is a place where we're going to see impact, because the relatively small, noisy computers can also have still an enhancement in that area. And so we look at this as a software company in quantum. I've been known to say that we're not in the quantum software industry, because there's no really quantum software industry without classical software. We're in the data science, machine learning business in a way. Data science overall is what the business that we're in, and quantum will be a part of almost every, I think, data science, machine learning workflow in biopharma in the future. I really do believe it'll be an integral part if you want to do it right, because if you can get better accuracy from your model by using quantum distributions, or you can solve using more variables, then you maybe have to reduce them using a classical computer so you can solve it in time. If you can get a more accurate model, why wouldn't you do that? You have to do that. If it's cancer detection, you really do care about what the model tells you about whether this patient is going to have a drug reaction or not. That's life or death sometimes. So for getting the accurate model for that, getting the accurate model before you spend $1 billion on average in developing a blockbuster drug, you should know that your models are accurate in the way you've made your decisions there. So if quantum can enhance that, I can't see any workflow where you wouldn't want to include it if you're going to get a better answer.
I see. So quantum basically enables this data science on steroids in a way. I see. So, but practically speaking, okay, so this is very exciting, and it feels that this is the major disruption which is like unfolding right now. But what are the strategies? What would be the right strategy for the pharmaceutical company, let's say today, right now, to start kind of embracing this quantum technology? What could they practically do to start implementing this? Maybe some pilot projects or whatever, but how would this look like?
Yeah, I think it also depends on the culture of each company in a way. Some companies are more willing to partner outside. So, you have to make the decision first, workforce development wise. Are you going to really double down on having internal experts who are quantum algorithms experts, for example? Or will that be something that you outsource to industry partners? Do you have that internally or not? If you do, then you have to start hiring those kind of teams and developing that kind of expertise. The other option is to partner with folks who are in the quantum industry, the hardware makers, or a company like Zapata that can have that algorithms capability. I think initially those people are not a dime a dozen. Maybe you can have one or two, and I think that would be ideal, maybe a handful. But having 100 of them in a pharmaceutical company right now is probably not even possible with the number of people who really understand the algorithms, can really understand the math, and also have domain expertise in biopharma to look at this. This has to be developed, I think, internally. So part of the way of developing that is getting those people on board. You need to have probably one or two people at least understand enough about the hardware, enough about the software systems to take advantage of it best. And then once you've identified those people, and a lot of these companies have a quantum chemist who can really at least understand the language of quantum mechanics enough to understand this, to get involved and kind of be an internal champion. I think, yeah, you're right. Start small with some proof of concept that's going to lead to a result that will help you benchmark, when the investment timescale should be for these various use cases. So, our process at Zapata is we work with companies to come together and really workshop where the use cases are first. And really, the next step is to look at these use cases at a deeper level and really look at the math and be very truthful to ourselves. It doesn't look like quantum is going to be a solution for that for 10 years. Maybe that's not the first one we do. This one looks more near term. Let's try to work on that problem. And, this is my bias, but I think the ones that will have a nearer term impact on the drug discovery process in some way, or clinical trials, or the commercial side of the business, if you can find something that's going to create a real business impact, a real ROI, and that's technically feasible with the nearer term quantum devices, that's really the sweet spot to try to aim that way. Because it's when you get the first ROI, when you can find that you're actually using something in a real process in production, that the investment will start to turn around, and we'll be able to invest more into this area. Pharma is very conservative. We don't, as an industry, we weren't the first with the cloud, we weren't the first with big data, we weren't the first with AI. And there's kind of been a catch up. So there is a necessity. I think sometimes people started too early in some of these cases and had some early failures, which can mean that the C-suite is not going to invest as much in this area. This one's going to be very disruptive. It's going to be extremely disruptive. And just like if you're not doing big data, if you're not doing data science really well, if you're not making data-based decisions in biopharma today, you're behind the eight ball a bit. I think with quantum, it's even more so, exponentially so, I think. So I think it behooves us to be realistic with our expectation setting with the executives, and picking those near-term ones where we can get some early wins and show that this can have an ROI, and therefore release some of the funding to invest in this area more, because I believe it really will be disruptive.
My feeling is that probably quantum will be picked up primarily in the first place by companies who already invest in this AI stuff like machine learning. Probably they already well versed for this digital and data science tools. So I guess the leaders will be even more leaders in the
this digital disruption really is a game-changing thing, and it's creating a real rift between the people who are able to be data-driven and those who aren't, and it's really throughout the entire process. And so the culture that does data science and embraces data science, and it has a chief data officer, for example, that's reporting to the CEO, those kind of companies, I think, are poised to really take advantage of quantum better than the others. I completely agree.
Right. So how does Zapata manage clients? Like, what's the path for partnership with your company? What kind of, maybe, I don't know, partnership structures or clients communications exist right now, and how do you go about onboarding clients, basically?
So our main offering is our Orchestra platform. At the end of the day, we're a software company. We can develop applications, complex data science applications over this system that we've developed, Orchestra, and we can do that with a pharmaceutical client together. We can help them deploy that. We can also work through systems integrators, large companies that do integrations. So we can work with a vendor, systems integration consultant or vendor, the large ones that we know, that already are a vendor to these companies, so we can work in that modality. Sometimes if there's a question as to, is there even an algorithm? Is there even a way to do this on a quantum computer? We also do those engagements, and that's where our scientists really get involved and look deeply at the problem and try to find a novel solution, so we can partner in that way as well and build the application with the partner to do this. At the end of the day, the deliverable, though, is a workflow that will work in your research and development environment in production. And that's really the way that we make our money is by offering the solution that will actually run these systems in production. That's where we want to get our partners to, is the ability maybe to create for themselves the IP. We're not interested in taking the IP and owning the IP. That will never happen. I've been on the other side of the table. That's not, any software company or quantum company that thinks that they're going to get a percentage of drug revenues because they offer a computing solution, I think that they're going to have a rude awakening. That's not really our model at all. We see our role as a way of enabling biopharma to really make use of this novel means of computing in their value chain, and any way that we can bring that force to bear to help them create the IP and create the drugs and bring those to patients and bring patient value is really what our goal is.
Okay, so it sounds like a very customizable kind of solution and very iterative process of creating joint project and value for the customer. It's very exciting.
It has to be. It has to be, because we're in early days. Anyone who says, "Oh, we know the perfect solution for this," or "We know how this is going to actually work," is absolutely lying. And every company is different. Like I said, some people have 5 or 10 people already in their company working on quantum projects and whatever. That's one case scenario. The other case is you only have one person who's like the quantum champion, and there's not yet budget or awareness. Those are different situations, and they have to be handled differently. And we're flexible to work with a partner, meet them where they are in this journey. And we see our goal as being to enable them to get further along. And that will be different from company to company, group to group, and project to project.
Okay, so it's kind of exciting, and I'd like to go the other way around. Like, okay, we as I understand, quantum can be applied for a very wide array of tasks in the pharmaceutical space, from basically basic biology to clinical settings, etc. So I ask another way: what are the limitations of quantum? What are the tasks where quantum is definitely not the best or ideal solution? I just want to understand if there are customers or companies who should not care too much about this technology and don't waste their time, let's say, so that they know that quantum is definitely not the optimal solution for them. Is there any
Well, I think that it's nuanced, right? Because a lot of people are excited about the future of ab initio chemistry, protein folding, all these really difficult problems. And quantum will help there, but it's just not going to do it tomorrow. It's not going to do it next week. It's not going to do it next year. Is there a research program that you should have, maybe collaborating with outside organizations, even universities, to move that along and be aware of it? Yes. Are you going to do better than your current density functional theory calculations that you're doing on a classical computer? No, that is absolutely not going to happen over the next year. So if you're going into this thinking that, okay, yeah, I'll just use this VQE algorithm and it'll be better than something I'm actually doing already in the lab, that's not going to happen. And I think some companies have, made that mistake already and thought, okay, yeah, I've heard quantum. I read the Google paper. Okay, there's already I can do quantum chemistry on a quantum computer by running my credit card and using the cloud quantum computer and pressing the big fat quantum easy button. And that's not the case. So I think expectation setting is really important here, and understanding the timeline and roadmaps for when certain capabilities are going to come. You're not going to be able to do protein folding or even rather simple quantum chemistry on a small molecule. It's still bigger than a lot of the molecules that have been calculated yet on any real quantum computer in reality. You're talking one orbital, one qubit, or maybe, a little bit less than that, but with some algorithmic developments. Now, having said that, things are accelerating. We will be releasing a paper in the coming week that shows 1,000-fold improvement on VQE in the best case. So 1,000-fold, 3 orders of magnitude. And that's, over the course of a year that we've been able to achieve that result. And we had already showed 100x gain in another paper that we had out earlier this year in reducing the circuit depth that's necessary to do some of these calculations. So, and the hardware is getting better and better, actually at a more accelerated pace than people had predicted. So, these things are coming together. But if you think you're going to be able to do it today or next week, that's not really the investment time frame, and you'll get things wrong. Having said that, though, for a pharmaceutical company that wants to be a leader 5 years from now, if it's in your medium-term business plan that you want to be a leader in your industry, which for most of us that would be the case, I would think. If that starts to happen in 3 years or 4 years or 6 years, even. You should be in the game and be working on this and creating the IP. That's another piece of this, right? So it's not going to give you better answers than your classical computers this week or next year, but it may over the next, I hate picking timeframes, but 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. In some ways, if it's in this decade, it shouldn't matter because the IP is going to be created in this next decade. So you may find yourself 7 years down the road and say, oh, wow, quantum computers finally worked. Great, I'm going to get it started today. Oh, wait, I have to pay licensing to this organization and my competitor and this other competitor because those patents are for 20 years. Yeah. So now you're in a real problem. You're in a real tough situation, right? So I think it would be also naive to say, just because we don't have it today, I'm not going to invest and not going to create my workforce and not going to start creating the algorithms that will be patented and therefore taken away from me by my competitors in the next few years.
Right. So indeed, so innovation takes time, but without innovation, it's impossible to compete in this really fast-paced world of technologies. That's true. So one last question, bonus question. What's your major ambition for this year for the company? What would you like to achieve in practical terms, or maybe in some philosophical terms?
I'd say in practical terms, I'm really excited about the 2.0 version of Orchestra that's on our roadmap to be released later this year. And we're really excited about the features. I can't talk about it openly today so much, but under NDA, we can discuss this with anyone who wants to hear about our roadmaps. We're extremely excited about the new level of software engineering capabilities it will give us and the ability to do some of these really cool things with data science and machine learning, particularly. I think people will be pleasantly surprised with what we have there. And I think we'll be making some announcements of some of the results that we're having in biopharma and other industries in our collaborations that are very exciting. We're really excited about the pace of the research and some of the algorithmic developments. This time to this becoming very real is really getting, I think, shrinking. Smaller every day, and we're excited about that. It's a great year to be in quantum information science and in quantum computing.
Wow, so sounds really exciting. So I'd like to wish you good luck and wish your company really big luck with all these developments, because I feel it's super beneficial for everybody. It's going to be really beneficial, first of all, for the patients who will get their medicines faster, and innovation will accelerate. And that's all our really good causes to do all this job. So thank you very much for answering my questions. Thank you very much for your attention and for your time today, Christopher. And with that, I would like to conclude this interview.
Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate
the
opportunity to talk with you. Bye.
Bye-bye.